This is a muscle up, and right now I can do about 15 clean reps, but in 2023 I could barely even do one. And the problem is that it took way too long. My goal is for this video to be the only video that you really ever need to watch when it comes to learning how to do muscle ups. And to do so, I've split this video into 3 sections. Section 1, building a foundation of strength. Section 2 is learning the proper technique, and Section 3 is cleaning it up and adding more reps. Each of these sections are going to be timestamped, so if you're ever struggling in the future, you can always come back to the section you're struggling with. So if I was stripped of all my training and I was forced to relearn the muscle up in only 30 days, here is exactly what I would do. How do I do this? Oh my gosh. Well, if it does, then let's fix it. Now, before we start, there's 2 things that I recommend you get that will drastically change your performance. Number 1 is chalk, and number 2 is some kind of resistance band. Both of these are gonna be used in this video, so go get your hands on some right now. So, I've lost all of my progress. What do I do now? The first thing you need before even attempting to learn a muscle up is a base of pulling strength. Now, what does this look like? Everybody tells you that you should be able to do 8 to 15 pull-ups before you start training a muscle up, but I honestly completely disagree with that. I've met people that can do 20 pull-ups but can't even get close to doing a single muscle up. So if the amount of pull-ups you can do isn't the issue, then what is actually behind being able to do a muscle up? It's your explosive pulling power. This is how high you can pull in a single pull-up. And seeing as though a muscle up requires you to get over the bar like this, I would say that if you can do a pull-up to right below your chest, you're probably good. But what if you can't do this? Then I'm gonna explain to you how you can do that. Now, the first thing that you're gonna wanna do if you can't do a pull-up this high is grab a resistance band. If you don't have these, you can basically get them anywhere. They're on Amazon, they're in stores, you can probably get them at Walmart. And this is gonna be used for one of 2 exercises that you're gonna do here. So the first thing you're gonna do is wrap it around the bar like this, grab the one that's closest to you, pull it through, and down. You're gonna pull it down and step your feet into it like this. Now, the first exercise we're gonna do with this resistance band is called high pull-ups. This trains your explosive pulling power so that you're able to do a higher pull-up. And this resistance band is gonna help you get below your chest. So we're gonna do it like this. We're gonna grab the bar, get a little bit of a swing, just a little bit, and when we're at the apex of the swing, so in front, 1, 2, the second you start coming back, you're gonna pull. Just like that. Now, the second exercise we're gonna do is weighted pull-ups. Now, if you can't do weighted pull-ups, then that's probably a sign that your base of pulling strength isn't good enough to do muscle ups yet. So I would probably focus on just getting a greater pulling base, being able to do more pull-ups in general before you actually start working on this. So obviously, doing weighted pull-ups is pretty simple. You grab the bar, lock the weight in between your knees, pull, chin above the bar, and down. Now, when you're doing these in your workouts, you want to aim for a lower rep range. Why is that? Well, when we're training to get higher, we're training our explosive power. We're training how hard we can pull as fast as we can. And when you train for this, a low rep range where you're not getting fatigued is better. So for example, you'd want to strap your resistance band around the bar and do a set of probably 3 to 5 explosive high pull-ups. And the second you feel that your form starts breaking down and you start getting fatigued, stop. You want to aim for a higher set range as well. So for high pull-ups, I'd recommend doing sets of 3 to 6 reps for 4 to 6 sets. And for weighted pull-ups, I'd recommend doing sets of 4 to 6 reps for 3 to 4 sets. This is going to really focus on building a good strength base, and after you practice these, you'll definitely be able to pull much harder and much faster. All right, now we're on to the technique. If you don't already have a resistance band, you're gonna need to have one here. Now, what is the first thing you see everybody do whenever they do a muscle up? Well, if you don't know, I'm gonna tell you, swing. If you watch any clip of anybody doing a clean muscle up, they always jump on the bar and start with a swing. Why do we do this? Well, let me give you a little example. This is an example of a muscle up with no swing. Why did I have to do it on this? Okay, well, let me show you a second one. Here's what happens if I try to do that exact same thing on here. I can't get over the bar. So the reason that we swing is because the bar is in our way. Swinging doesn't necessarily take away the strength aspect, it just gives us just enough momentum so that our body naturally gets carried around the bar instead of into it. So how do you perform the swing properly? Well, obviously, the first thing you want to do is get on the bar. Okay, your swing should not be like this, and it shouldn't be like this either. You need to have a little bit of a swing, but not a huge swing. Now, the thing that everybody messes up with their swing is when they start pulling. If you mess this up, you will not be able to do a muscle up, period. In the swing, you start pulling the second you start swinging back. When you do your swing, I want you to imagine that there's a hula hoop right out in front of you on the ground. And when you jump up on the bar to swing, I want you to imagine that you're sticking your toes into that. You're elongating into that. 1, 2. Now, the second you start feeling yourself come back from that swing or start swinging backwards, you want to thrust your hips up to your chest. Here's what it looks like. Swing 1, ready? Elongate, throw, elongate, throw, elongate, throw. Now, after we've got the swing down and we understand how to throw our knees, that is when we start pulling. So combine the first two things and at the same time, pull. So here's what that looks like. Jump up. Ready? Elongate, pull, and put your knees to your chest. That's gonna give you a lot more height. One more time, swing, elongate, tuck, pull. All right, now this is really where the resistance bands start coming in handy, because now we're on to the difficult part, which is the transition. So in the transition of a muscle up, after you've swung, pulled your knees to your chest, and you've pulled, all you have to do is lean your chest over the bar like this. You see how it's right below my chest, which is why I said that's the height you need to have before you're able to do a muscle up. So one more time. Here, tuck, pull, lean my chest over the bar. And obviously, I don't think it takes much explaining to know that once you're on top of the bar, you push up and you're done. So let's get a recap of everything from the side angle. Using your resistance band, jump up onto the bar, get a little swing. The second you start coming back, tuck your knees. So throw your knees to your chest and pull, okay? And then the second you're up there, lean your chest over the bar and push up. Now, the reason that I would recommend you use a resistance band is because it allows you to practice the technique without strength being a barrier. So at first, I would recommend using a lot of resistance just to help yourself get the feel of what it feels like. After you already have the feel, then I would start incorporating assisted muscle ups into your workouts. This still lets you practice the form without strength being too much of an issue, but it's also gonna help you practice your explosiveness so that you can pull higher and actually do the muscle up without it. Now, you might be saying, well, Landon, I just have an ugly ass muscle up now. I can only do like 1 or 2 reps. It looks like shit. I want it to look like Instagram worthy. I want to be able to do more than 1 or 2 reps. Well, that's what we're going to talk about. So being able to do more muscle ups actually is really just a matter of strength rather than technique. Once you understand the technique, that's really all you need to know to really be able to do more than 2 reps. Now, once again, bands are gonna be your best friend here. If you can only do 1 or 2 reps, then pick a resistance band that you can do maybe 6 to 8 reps with. The more you do this, the better you'll get. In addition to this, I'm gonna give you a little challenge. After you've got your first muscle up, every single pull-up bar that you see after that, you have to try a muscle up on. This is called greasing the groove. Greasing the groove is basically doing the movement throughout the day, and this is gonna get your nervous system stronger and it's gonna adapt it so that it's able to do a muscle up better. To get more reps, you really just wanna hammer in the first 3 exercises that I talked about in this video. Weighted pull-ups, high pull-ups, and assisted muscle-ups with a resistance band. You wanna keep practicing all of these 2 to 3 times per week, and you'll notice that within pretty much no time, you'll instantly start getting better at muscle ups, and you'll start doing more reps. Your pull days should consist of almost entirely calisthenics, not all calisthenics if you don't want, but if you're really adamant about wanting to do more muscle ups and getting them a lot cleaner, then you have to do more calisthenics oriented stuff in your workouts. Now let's talk about cleaning it up. You want those nice clean reps, right? Where it just doesn't even look like you're trying. You sort of just fly up on top of the bar. You want the transitionless muscle ups. Now, once again, the same general principles apply.
All right, so my mic actually died, so I'm just going to be explaining what I was saying in this part over a voiceover. Basically, all I was explaining is that for cleaner muscle ups, all you need to do is hammer in the same 3 drills that I was talking about previously, and that you need to work on your technique a lot more because it's a much stricter technique. It's a little bit different from a regular muscle up. As I was explaining here, you jump up and you start pulling a little bit later after you've started coming back from the swing. And then once you've pulled to your waist, you lean over the bar and finish pushing at the top. In my opinion, it's the best to use resistance bands for this because it really allows you to get a good form of the technique since strength is so much of a barrier here. And I literally still do these in my workouts. So as long as you're doing all of these 3 exercises on a consistent basis, you should absolutely get better at both doing more muscle ups and doing much cleaner muscle ups. All right, so we've gone over everything. Now let's do a full recap. So the first thing that you want to do if you don't have a muscle up yet is focus on building your strength. It's not about how many pull-ups you can do, but rather your explosiveness when you do those pull-ups. You really want to focus on 2 exercises here. High pull-ups, you can also do these assisted to help you get more height, and weighted pull-ups. You want to aim for a lower rep range and a higher set range, and you want to do these 2 to 3 times per week. Now let's go over technique. When you do the technique for a muscle up, you have to get a small swing. When you're at the apex of your swing, the second you start swinging back, you want to throw your knees to your chest and pull. This will cause you to get a lot of height, and when your chest is over the bar, then you simply just lean over the bar, and then you finish by pushing up. The best way to get better at this is by doing it with bands. To clean it up, you really want to focus on doing assisted muscle ups. Cleaner form muscle ups require a much higher degree of neural adaptation, and for adding reps, you really just want to focus on doing all 3 of these exercises: high pull-ups, weighted pull-ups, and assisted muscle ups. Overall, the more that you do this skill, the more reps you're going to be able to do and the cleaner it's going to get. Now, remember why you started this journey in the first place. It might have been to impress people, or it might have been to just prove to yourself that you could actually do something you set your mind to. Whatever the reason is, I promise you that learning the muscle up is very doable. It might feel hopeless at first because you don't have enough strength or understand the technique, but over time it gets much easier. It'll come much faster than you think. I'm going to be dropping way more breakdowns of more advanced or even more beginner calisthenic skills, so if you want to see any of those, make sure you drop a subscribe. I'll also be posting my own progress and other videos relating to calisthenics. So if you want to subscribe early for a better Chris Heria, lock in and follow for more. Subscribe for more. That's the right wording.